Buen día.
Good morning. Welcome to this third and final day of the International Conference on Service Learning. We hope you're enjoying and learning as much as we are. It's truly an unprecedented experience doing this online, this conference where we were used to having hugs and sharing some time together, but it's great that we've been recreating that experience and we're getting together and learning from one another. This first panel of the day, Friday, is on face-to-face service learning during the pandemic. We are going to be sharing and listening during the next an hour and 15 minutes. This plenary session that, as all the others, is being broadcast in Spanish, English, and Portuguese for all over the world over the 3 YouTube channels that we have at CLICE. I invite you to subscribe to the channel that you're watching now, and so that you can enable the bell to receive the notifications. So in this plenary session, each speaker will have 15 minutes to share their experiences. And after that, we're going to ask Carlos March to share some thoughts, some final reflections. So again, we will be learning on what it is like to carry out service learning experiences in a classroom, face-to-face, because we've already discussed what it's like to do it virtually online. But during the pandemic, there are also lots of wonderful projects that are done face-to-face. So first, Noelia Saviño, she has a degree in nutrition from the University of Buenos Aires. She graduated in 2014, and she's also a chef, a cook, a professional cook. She's also a teacher at the university and outside the university, the outreach department. She's an administrator and cook chef at the Healthy Bar in the University of Buenos Aires, and the program UBA in Action, a hot meal that she's going to describe right now. Noelia. Hello, good morning. Thank you so much for the invitation. I wanted to share, I will be sharing my PowerPoint, right? Okay. So I will be sharing our experience during the pandemic. As she said, I work at the University of Buenos Aires, and there we have a program, UBA in Action. It's an outreach program. It's students coming out to the community with a social role, because the university not only has an educational role, but also a social role. And during the pandemic, we started to see that in many places, beyond the healthcare aspects, there were many financial, economic problems. Many people that were living in the streets, they had lost their jobs, or people that were already homeless that were used to receiving donations or some financial assistance or food from passers-by. And now during the pandemic, they lost that possibility. So they had many needs that were not being met. So in that context, we created this project. It's called A Hot Meal. It's related to the program UBA in Action. And this is about preparing meals for the homeless. At our school, we have a bar that is it's a healthy bar managed by the students of nutrition, where we used to prepare the meals for the students that were attending classes. But during the pandemic, of course, the university was closed and that space was not being used. So we said, well, there are a lot of people that are having a lot of needs, and we have this space that is not being used. So we coordinated with a lot of people at the university, and we created this program that is precisely cooking and preparing meals, particularly hot meals and full meats, fully nutritious with protein, carbohydrates, vitamins, minerals, etc. Because perhaps in many cases, this was the only meal they were receiving in the day. So we cover the nutritional aspect, this healthy bar that is managed by students of nutrition while they prepare these meals. And of course, All this is under the program, as I said, UBA in Action, that obtains the funding, looking for donations, financial assistance, raw materials, anything that is needed for cooking around 250 meals per day. Initially, the idea was to cook from Monday to Friday or Saturdays, but then as the project started to move on, we said, well, we cannot just deal with this a few days of the week. Otherwise, they're not going to have any meal in some days. So we started cooking Monday through Monday last year. It was very hard to maintain that rhythm. And so we've been cutting down on some days. Apart from cooking at the university, students from all courses at the university, the School of Dentistry, Law, Psychology, Economics, Medicine, they all were in contact to participate, to distribute these 250 meals around the School of Medicine of the university. So with all of them, we organized ourselves to prepare, to pack, to distribute these meals every day. And let me share a video now. How long have you been in the streets? Well, good luck, and thank you for all those that are helping us.
Y aunque los sueños hoy se rompan en pedazos, resistiré, resistiré.
Bueno, espero que se haya podido.
Well, I hope you've been able to see at least. I hope I've been able to transmit what we've been doing. I thought showing the faces of the homeless, of the people receiving these meals, how happy they were and how they inspired us. I'm truly touched because it's very hard to see kids, young children living in the street and thinking that this is the only meal they receive. And apart from the meal itself, it's not only the meal, it's a listening ear, it's feeling they are accompanied. They were expecting us every day. They know we are coming. So they've written letters, they've made drawings, poems, as that man, Marcelo, that was singing that song, I Shall Resist is the name. So I'm still touched when I see that because it's a very hard situation for them. And I know that a meal a day is not solving this problem of social vulnerability and marginality that these people are living, and let alone the children. And we know that food and housing are rights, and in this case, those rights are not being met. So from our position, from what we can do, that is cooking and preparing meals, spicing and transmitting our love through food, I think it's a way also of expressing that love and expressing that company. And that's what we can do from our place. It's what we know how to do. But we know that this is not enough. This doesn't solve the situation. But at least this is a meal for these people that are going through this difficult situation so they can go to sleep with a hot meal and particularly feeling that they are not alone, feeling accompanied. Thank you. Thank you all for the invitation, and thank you to the University of Buenos Aires, the UBA in Action program, all the volunteers from all courses, from all schools at the University of Buenos Aires, the cooking team at the Healthy Bar, and all those that make this possible, cooking every day and distributing these meals. And I haven't mentioned this, but we also used to cook for people living in shanty towns like the 11124. We bake them homemade bread, and also to other sectors around the university.
Thank you, Noelia. It's a very good start. This has to do with what you were saying. This is what we can do. It's not about what we believe that others should do or what we imagine we could do. This is about doing what we can do and put all the knowledge that we receive at the university to the service of other people. And this has to do with our own individual values and responsibilities. Thank you for starting off this plenary session in the last day of our conference. Now we are going to listen to Noemi Mirta Borlandelli. She's going to be our second speaker. She's a teacher at the vocational training schools that are part of the municipal school system in the city of Mar del Plata in Buenos Aires, Argentina. And for 9 years, she has been educating students from peripheral areas in the city. She educates students so that they can enter the labor market, specifically in the textiles market. Noemi, we are all ears. Good afternoon, good morning. I am joining you to share this service learning experience that I started last year in the middle of the pandemic, but actually I have been training students for a very long time within the context of the vocational training schools in the municipality of General Pueyrredón in Mar del Plata, Argentina, in the field of textiles. Last year with the pandemic, and the fact that we couldn't be together in person, we had to reinvent ourselves. And as part of that process, we started taking some steps in this direction. This is a project that started in March 2020. We received a lot of requests from many establishments, many sites that were lacking face masks and gowns and all other type of garments, and we didn't know where they could get the supply of garments they required in healthcare establishments. And I want to start by thanking the efforts of my students because during the pandemic, it was quite difficult for me to provide them with the materials, to teach them how to sew. And at the beginning, we made 3,000 face masks that were distributed in all the institutions that requested them. We had whole families working. They picked up the materials, the fabrics, the tutorials. A lot of people would come to my house to pick up those materials, and because there was a very important scarcity of materials, and it was fantastic because it was learning through solidarity, through service. With my students, we exchanged the materials that the families received for different items that were required in the different institutions that report to the local government. We made approximately 3,000 face masks and more than 5,000 boot covers and caps and gowns. And we would distribute these items every day to different places. I'm going to share with you the comments by Marta, one of our students, and I'm going to share that with you. I'm Marta. Last year, I was lucky to meet Professor Mirta Borlandelli. I could only attend face-to-face lessons twice, and then the pandemic came. So we had to stay at home, and she would teach us how to make gowns, face masks, and caps. And we worked very hard last year. So I just took my family sewing machine, and I started making some face masks, and then I ran out of material. I had to get more, and she brought me a roll of 50 meters of fabric. So this is an example of all the family work. Everybody was working from their homes. We had to abide by certain health protocols because we were in a lockdown period. So we were able not only to reactivate all the textile production, but also many of my students were able to start their own freelance work in the private market. They were able to make face masks and sell them to other places. So they found a job at times where there was a lot of unemployment. As a result of the repercussions of this project that was being carried out in the students' homes and in my own home, we set up the textile operational center that would produce clothes and garments for different healthcare institutions in the city. So we started working with some samples. This is a service-oriented center. We had 600 suits prepared for these workers. We work with the support of the Secretary of Education and with the authorities of the 10 municipal vocational training schools in order to get them on board, because we wanted to open a textile productive center. So as soon as we were able to open this center in one of the schools, we were going to assemble a textile production line. The center was set up in school number 5, that is part of the Don Bosco Salesian work. We installed all the machinery, we set up all the necessary protection protocols. We were also wearing all the personal protective equipment. We were keeping social distancing. And from June to December, we worked every day from Monday to Friday as volunteer work from 8 a.m. to 1 p.m. And we had groups, bubbles, as we call them, that rotated. So it was very hard work. And we did not only produce these 600 suits, but we also produced between 5,000, 7,000 items, including all these different items, gowns, caps, boot covers, and face masks. And throughout this process, we had learning and service, because each student devoted time to working in this factory, this workshop that was set up within a school. As a result of the work, and a factory in the city of Mar del Plata called 5 students who are currently employees of this textiles factory. So we did not only experience learning and service here, but we were also able to provide jobs to students that were learning this trade. The truth is that learning and service go hand in hand in this project, but I think that it is a matter of will. I'm also moved because of all this effort from all the students who work so hard in order to meet all those needs. I think that there is another testimonial that I have here to share with you of another student. Her name is Adriana, and she helped us from the very beginning of the process. So let's listen to her. Hello, I'm Adriana, and I'm a student of the number 5 vocational training school, Seferino. I want to thank Mirta for allowing me to join her in this experience, for my participation in the project where we produce gowns, face masks, two-piece suits, boot covers. It was a very nice experience for me because although we were not able to attend classes in person, I learned how to make all these items, how to use the sewing machine, and I had to work at home. So I want to say that this was a very nice experience for me because I learned a lot, but at the same time, I was able to help others that really needed all these items. All right. I think that there are no words to describe this, but I want to extend my appreciation to the students of schools number 5, 7, and 10 that have participated and contributed to the different stages of this project. I also want to thank the Secretary of Education, Health, and Production of the Municipality of General Pueyrredón. I also want to thank the management and authorities of the Municipal Vocational Training School number 5, who allow us to set up the textile production center within their premises, and to the teachers of these schools, number 2, number 4, and number 8, that participated also in the project along with the students and also took work home and also contributed from their own homes. I continue to work to provide services to others. We did not only produce all these garments for hospital staff, we also carried out a project that was called Smiles in times of pandemic. We produced 4,000 dolls to distribute in municipal kindergarten schools. And today we continue doing this for Children's Day, because this is the year of happy childhood. So we continue to work along the lines of service and learning. Thank you for allowing me to share my experience. I'm really moved, and I thank you from the bottom of my heart.
Thank you, Noemi. That was beautiful. It was great to hear about the work you're doing. And, you know, Noelia's and Noemi's emotions also are transmitted to us when we listen to her, and they show that this is possible from different disciplines, different educational levels, different places in the world, as we're going to see now with the other two colleagues. So we're going to move on with Ernest. Ernest Halilovic. He's an English teacher at primary school, Druga Osnovna Škola, sorry for the pronunciation, in Bosnia-Herzegovina. He is a member of the Administration Council of the Union of Primary Education of the Federation of Bosnia-Herzegovina, Executive Director of the Association for the Development of Key Competencies, ARS, and head of the Union of the Public School that he is representing today. He has managed the execution of 27 projects. Ernest, the floor is yours.
Hello, thank you for the invitation. As you already said, I'm a primary school teacher, and I will show you now what me and my team did during the pandemics and with service learning. I hope you can hear me. So the project is called EcoScience, and it's a project by our school Druga Osnovna Škola, or in translation, second primary school. We're a school from Bosanska Krupa, small town in Bosnia and Herzegovina. As you can see in the picture, our focuses are always continuous improvement in working and educational conditions. We care much for inclusion, for human rights, and the protection of the environment. These are the mentors that mentored through this project, my colleagues Marima and Damir. But I first presented you the school because our whole school was participating in this project that we conducted. Our students are 13 and 14 years old, and a total number of 64 students that were directly involved in carrying out and implementing this project, and that group of students also included students with low socioeconomic status, members of minorities, and students with disabilities without parental care, part of pedagogical communities. And we also implemented this project with the help of our community. The local authorities, for example, the mayor of our Bosanska Krupa, we worked together with the secondary vocational school Safet Krupic, and with a lot of local companies, whether in helping us with the materials or with advices regarding how to use those materials properly, or what kind of materials to use in order to implement the project and to have a long-lasting effect. Now, the project EcoScience is a service learning project in which our students created wooden boards with creative eco-friendly messages. So the messages were funny and interesting, and they were making you think, so to say. And in order to implement that project, our students always had to learn new things. So it was a completely new thing for them to go into a project like this. So far, we always had projects, you know what to do, but here, in order to go to the next step, you need to acquire some knowledge first, and then you can move on. So that was an interesting approach during this service learning experience, and it was the first time that we did a project like this so far. The motivation for us, students, mentors, and school, was learning outside the classroom. We wanted to introduce changes in relation to traditional school environment and teaching. We finally wanted socializing, because we spent almost a year closed in our homes having online classes. We wanted to be creative and to solve problems. And the most important thing for our students was that they had the chance to participate in every step of the process. And that everything was not only, well, let's say you listen to a lecture, then you memorize it. They had to apply the knowledge afterwards. Our general goals was raising awareness of the local population and tourists about the importance of preserving the environment and nature. Bosanska Krupa is a green municipality, so to say. It's a beautiful municipality full of natural places where you can rest your soul, so to say. We have two beautiful rivers, emerald clear. We have lots of green space. We have lots of places where people can enjoy nature, and that's why we wanted to raise awareness, or to continue raising awareness of our local population, but not only them, tourists too, to preserve that environment that we enjoy all of our life. And we also wanted to teach our students how to be socially active, what social activism is, how to change and how to contribute to the development of our community, how to make your community better with small steps, because we all have that idea that we need a lot of money and a lot of resources to go into things like that and to change something, to make a change. But basically, we did make a change here, and we didn't need much money at all. And we wanted also to be an example of good practice. We wanted to show other schools that they can do it too without having that much of resources. Here you can see some of our pictures. So as you can see in those pictures, that's our municipality. That's how it looks like. It's maybe not shining right now because of the weather, but at the end of the presentation, I will also explain something about that. But as you can see, there are lots of green places to take a rest. Our learning goals were how to manage, to teach our kids how to manage finances. During that process, they had to learn about that, geometric shapes, how to measure and determine areas, how to manage time, because we had a certain time span to follow, how to recognize the properties of materials and their characteristics, how to use that for the purpose, how to create and make objects that can be used out of all things, so to say. So that's where recycling came into the story. And as you can see, those are the classes inside of school. So of course, we also had to have lectures inside the school. Just a few pictures. And also we continued with mixing colors, comparing and distinguishing different types of textures, how to apply the color on different surfaces to make those boards last longer. Of course, those messages need to be right. So we applied spelling rules and grammar. We also learned about chemical compositions of materials, how we developed digital competencies, because most of our meetings were online, because during the pandemic we were not in the full capacity. Our students were divided into groups, and they also had to learn about orientation in space. And one of those things, one of the main questions, where to put. So we researched historically the significant sites in our community where tourists visit, which are visited a lot by tourists. So that's where we put those eco signs. These are some other pictures now regarding environment and regarding financial management. And it was a fun thing to do for our students, to learn things in this way. So first, service learning was something really, really new for us. We were contacted and asked if we were interested. We heard about it, so we also researched a bit, and we just decided, let's go into it, let's see. We tried to find other examples, and we did. And well, the main thing that we were, let's say, the age of our students and the pandemic mainly influenced the type of project that we used. So we first identified the needs of our community. We did it through an online quiz. Our students asked their family members, so people they're close to. We couldn't let them go through the community and ask people during the pandemic, of course. Then we have some lectures on social activism. We had some market research on price checking and budgeting, making a financial plan. Then media promotion, reporting and presentation. And those skills were acquired during the implementation of the project. So in order to go to the next stage, we again had to learn some new things. They developed also presentation skills, how to sketch, to size a board, to ask people for advice. They created messages. We tried to translate the messages. So our first intention was to have those messages in 3 different languages, but it was almost impossible to get the original meaning of the message into English or into German. So we had to go around that, and we left it for some later period of time. And they acquired this materials for making those signs. And here you can see them going through our community and placing those signs. And all of them wearing masks, social distance, of course. They went then through the process of making those signs. you will see it on the next slide, and engraving of characters. So that's something they couldn't do by themselves, so we had to assistant from a local company, but they were able to see how this process worked. They were explained how the machine works. They painted the characters after that, and they applied a protective layer on those signs. So here you can see some of those pictures where they use different tools and where they tried to make those signs as good as possible. And another, for the last part of those activities, we had, again, media promotion, finding locations, posting of signs, project evaluation, media promotion, and of course, at the end, a party. Well, the party had to be online. Unfortunately, we couldn't do it live. Here are some more pictures of our students working on them. And that's where we come to obstacles and difficulties regarding this epidemic. The coronavirus really influenced the implementation of our project. So we started, it took us almost 5 months to implement, although we had a timeline of 3 months. So by the end of the project, and we had a dangerous situation. Our school closed. The mentors, Merima and Damer, were infected with the coronavirus. I was lucky not to catch the virus back then, and over 20 of our teachers were also infected with the virus. And so we had to close the school. Our students had also family members, so everything was really too dangerous in order to do anything. So we paused for a bit, and when everything got back, so to say, to the new normal during the epidemic, we tried again to finish and to complete the project, but then the weather conditions influenced it again, and we had to wait for a bit. But in the end, it was a fun process. The students liked it a lot. The teachers were also surprised how it went well, and we are very satisfied with the result, and we can't wait to implement another service learning project. And for the end, I would also like to thank you again for the invitation, and to thank all of those teachers from our school that helped us during the process, and of course to thank our students that were really motivated to implement this project to the end. Thank you very much.
Muchas gracias, Ernest. Me encantó esto que decías al final, de que no pueden esperar
Ernest,
para iniciar el próximo proyecto.
I really like this idea that you cannot wait to start with the next project. And although you have to adapt to the pandemic, this was also an opportunity for new learners. These are service projects, but at the same time, they are learning projects. So it's not one or the other. So I think that this brings about a lot of learning opportunities, and it is important to recall this. And let me also take advantage of this opportunity to say that in the welcoming video from Luna Malkit from the Service Learning Network of Central and Eastern Europe, when Ernest talked about the training they receive in service learning, MIOS is a Bosnian organization with whom we have been working for a long time. And as Nieves said on the first day, they are simultaneously working with us, and they are carrying out this international conference in Bosnia. So Ernest, it's so nice to have you here representing Bosnia on this panel. And our fourth speakers in this panel are going to be Bárbara Daniela Guerre Rodriguez and Larissa da Silva. Bárbara studied exact sciences in the University of Sao Paulo, and she focus on chemistry. She is a teacher, and herself and students have received grants and recognition in different projects associated with waste management and water. She's going to share her experience together with Larissa, who is one of the students that participated in this project. And we thought that this was a very good opportunity to understand what Ernest was saying about the participation of students throughout the process. Noelia and Noemi have also talked about this, but now we are going to listen to this experience. Barbara, Larissa, whenever you are ready. Hello, everyone. I would like to begin by thanking the organizers for the invitation. We work in the reuse of waste. Our school is located in the city of San Carlos in the state of Sao Paulo in Brazil. There are 150 students in the primary and secondary school levels. When we started in 2019 with the initial idea for this project, our students in the cafeteria realized that there was a lot to be changed. So they started thinking about all the waste of food that was produced in that cafeteria. So students started doing some research in order to see what they could do with all those waste in order to reduce the amount of waste produced. So they were able to reduce waste, but students in another group realized that food was being thrown away. So they came up with the idea of creating a place where those food waste could be used for the production of biogas. This implies process of organic matter decomposition. Here you can see that this process requires water. A partnership was established with company in the city. We have been in that partnership for a year now. The project has learning activities. Some students are carrying out the processes for biogas production. On the service side of the project, we have the involvement of the entire school community. Science clubs are also participating. And there is a subject at school that focuses on this. So the project focuses on homemade biogas production. We can see here two pictures that show what happens with biogas production and what happens inside the classroom. So in terms of learning and service integration, we can see that we have subjects such as chemistry and all the service-related activities that have to do with the products produced with that biodigester that has been built in the school. We also have biofertilizers that are being sold in order to raise some money. Students work on renewable energies and environmental problems. They run experiments, and they also work with a biodigester. In addition to setting up this biodigester, we also set up a compost production equipment. And we have the teacher of Portuguese language that helps students with reports. We have different professors involved, students, and some business people. In total, we have 600 individuals participating in the project, both directly and indirectly. These are the students in the lab who are running the experiments with this biodigester. And this is used also for other processes. Since we need anaerobic bacteria, we also need to work with animal manure. This is the nutrition and cafeteria department who help us with food waste and the recycling or the reuse of those waste. Here we see some pictures of the community members involved, some students with their mothers collaborating in the project. These are two businessmen who are also providing support to the school directly. At present, we are setting up the second biodigester. The first one is already in operation. We also work with composting, and everything that is produced here is used to help plant growth. These are some pictures of students setting up the second biodigester, painting it in order to put it into service together with the first one. In these pictures, we can see the biodigesters. The students apply a specific method to assemble these biodigesters, and there is a third biodigester that is currently under development. With regard to waste, these companies also helped us in the process to reuse waste, and a recipe book is going to be published containing recipes on how to use the food remnants. And this is going to be like a gift to the community for participating in this project. At the back of the book, we can see some pictures of our partners, those that contributed materials. We also have some explanation of the theoretical part of the project. We have the recipes, and there were some suggestions from students and teachers of content and recipes for this book. Here you see a pudding, and there is a recipe for that. The teacher also suggested this recipe using watermelon hulls or peels, and therefore we have a wide diversity of partners. These are sweet potato chips, and we have tried them, and they are really delicious. I want to thank you for inviting me to participate in this event, and let me finish my presentation with a picture of some of our students that have contributed to this project. Thank you.
Muchas gracias. Larisa, ¿te gustaría compartir algo con nosotros sobre tu experiencia en nombre de tus compañeros?
Larissa, would you like to share anything about your experience? I would love to hear you.
O aprendizado que a gente tem vendo na prática.
The learning puts in practice the lessons we learned in the classroom and the theory. We put all that into practice, and that was very interesting to implement that on a day-to-day basis as protection for the environment and to have a healthy life and to help us be more hopeful about a better future. That is our main objective.
Absolutamente. Esperanza de un futuro mejor,
Exactly.
creándolo. ¿Qué dirías, Larissa, sobre
So
esta
what would you
idea
say, Larissa, about this thing about creating a better future?
nos mostraste un
Because I think that
prototipo
what
a
you
partir de
showed us with your teacher and with the other
esperanza
teachers is that this is
para
not only
qué
about an
necesitas tener el
abstract
cuerpo
hope,
para hacer
but of,
esperanza, para ser
putting your
una
body
victoria
to it
parte
to have a
una
more
vida con
hopeful
eso.
future. I would like to hear you about that. It's like turning on the TV and seeing the environmental impact on the different communities in our region. For instance, we have a lot of problems in that respect. We have a shortage of water, and we also see that there are problems in the atmosphere, and that generates a lot of disease, respiratory diseases, for instance, digestive problems. So having an impact on that and helping reduce the concentration of gases that has this impact on the atmosphere, I think that is very important for us. We have a direct impact on changing the future and of making a country and a world where it's possible to live a more healthy life without those problems generated by the environmental impacts. Wonderful. That was very clear. I would like to use this opportunity that all the speakers have been so respectful of the time assigned to take, perhaps we can make another round to listen to our colleagues, educators, and builders of hope, as Larissa said. Before passing the floor to Carlos, then I would like to listen to you, all of you once again. Just a brief comment. Now that you've heard one another and you've learned about other projects, can you give us a final reflection? Noelia, do you dare start again? Of course. First, I would like to congratulate you all for all your work. It's been amazing how in different parts of the world you are working from the different areas. And as I said at the beginning, from each of our places. So it's been a very versatile panel. I love to see that there are people that keep being enthusiastic and willing to do things and helping. So congratulations to all. It was very nice to hear you all and to share these experiences together. I think this gives us new ideas, and this I was listening, for instance, to the food waste issue. We also do things, incorporating ingredients. So I would love to see those recipe books and those ideas and apply them. I think that we all get richer after this. So congratulations for all that work. It was very nice. And thank you again for having invited us and participated in this event. Thank you, Noelia. I think what you said about learning from one another is the goal of these days together. Sharing ideas, learning from other projects, building hope. I insist with this. I think it's key to have the motivation to keep working. And something that you mentioned before that I forgot has to do with the partners. You mentioned companies, different agencies, government agencies, other educational institutions, and I think it has to do with what Noelia said, learning together, wanting together, learning from one another.
La verdad que es maravilloso.
The truth is that it's wonderful to hear that in each of the places where we've been, in different places of the world, we have contributed and helped one another from what we know, from what we can do. Helping the other, but sharing experiences. This is the lesson we learn here. Getting to know one another and knowing that we are all in this together, organizing ourselves, working together. The lessons and learnings are not just for students. We also get richer as human beings. We learn from the other. We learn from teachers in different situations that also set the example. So in each of the ways we've been through this difficult year of the pandemic, a year that found us devastated in many areas, but we've been able to rebuild ourselves. I think that there's nothing better than the combination of work, education, different forms of getting together and meeting, as in this conference here, meeting these three people that have also worked just the way we have. So thank you so much, and it's a pleasure and an honor to have shared this conference. And I've had the best experience. Thank you. Thank you, Noemi. Ernest?
Thank you. I didn't hear you at first. Well, I'm really impressed with all those things we all did, so to say. And although we are communities all around the world, we go for the same goal, to make our communities better. And what I found out is that we all have similar problems, and that we all are working on making those problems go away. I'm really thankful for having the opportunity to listen to those experiences, to see that teachers all around the world are fighting together to make a difference, to change their communities, not only their communities, but also the world in the end. And I'm really happy to have this new experience and to use it in the future to make my community better. So thank you.
Muchas gracias, Ernest. Bárbara, Larissa.
Ernest. Barbara, Larissa, would you like to share some final thoughts? Yeah, I would also like to congratulate everybody, each of the projects that changes, modifies the realities in their communities. Congratulations to all. I've learned a lot from what I've heard, and it has to do with what Larissa was saying. We obtained things through this project, and we see that the individual may improve the collective aspect. So we all have to do our own part. And as a result, the world will be much better than it is now. Thank you again for the invitation. I wanted to thank you again for the possibility of presenting all these works, and also congratulations for the works that you are doing. So all this will help for a better future. And what we see on TV today, we see all the disasters happening. Well, on the other hand, it's good to know that there are people working to change the current situation and to be hopeful, to live when we are adults, knowing that problems have been mitigated thanks to our work. Thank you again. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. As Ernest said, we can also see that in Brazil we are also working as a network in order to increase our visibility, in order to become stronger. Before we leave this session, by way of closing this plenary session, I would like to introduce to you Carlos March, who is member of the board of Fundes Argentina. And Carlos, the floor is yours. Thank you, Luz. Thank you for this invitation, and thank you for allowing me to learn about these 4 service learning experiences. In 10 minutes, I will try to summarize. If I try to summarize these experiences, it would be like a bit disrespectful for them. So I will try to share some conclusions, some remarks based on what I've heard from the different presentations. In Noelia's case, there are very clear elements. First, This is a project that started with the objective of providing good nutrition. With the pandemic, they found the need to feed with healthy foods the homeless. And this activity took place within the framework of a state-run university, the University of Buenos Aires. And there are two aspects that I would like to highlight about this project. First, the fact that they were able to recover the space as a public asset. A public asset is not something that is managed by the state. It is something that is available to us all in equal amount and quality. That is the first aspect. And the second one has to do with university outreach activities turned into a collaborative resilience. Usually, universities give priority to research, and the extension department is usually left out of budget allocations. It is ignored to a certain extent. But in this case, we can see that this department brings together the knowledge created in the university with the needs of the community. And I think that this project gives new value to the notion of university extension activities adapted to the needs for resilience in the context of a pandemic. Of course, we cannot put homeless people into a home because they don't have a home, despite the lockdown measures. The other experience by Noemi is also quite interesting. That project gives a new role to the municipal state. Noemi's project is conducted at the municipal level with collaboration of different municipal bodies, and the local government provides the state dimension related to citizens. Usually citizens do not deal with the federal government or the state government. They usually deal or are more in contact with the local government. So Noemi's project gives a new role and new value to the local government. And also, it attaches importance to the invisible talent. Talent exists in society, but we don't have the tools or the spaces that can give visibility to such talent. So this project started with the idea of making garments for healthcare professionals, but it ended up being cloth making workshop. So this has provided opportunities to talented people so that they can have a role in civic and productive life. Ernest's experience, going more to an international level, has 2 or 3 elements that make a lot of sense to me. First, they use the city ecosystem as a classroom. As he described, they created wall-less classrooms. For them, the community as the space for the classroom meant precisely bringing down the walls of the classroom during the pandemic and using the city's ecosystem as a classroom. This leads me to another important element, that is to see cities as essential transactional platforms. What matters are the transactions that take place in the society. I'm talking about commercial transactions as well as social and economic and emotional and affectionate transactions. From the moment we get up to the moment we go to bed, we engage in transactions. And Ernest's project sees that city as a transactional platform, a platform that allows them to look after the ecosystem. And the third aspect in his project is that they have used communication as a civic pedagogy, using boards and signs in public spaces with messages about environmental protection. They give meaning from a perspective of civic pedagogy. And Barbara and Larissa's experience, the fourth one presented here, clearly fits with what we could call the care economy that has a lot of aspects to it and involves many spaces. In Barbara's project, we see that it fits within the regenerative economy framework. This is a type of economy that starts repairing the damage that humans have caused to the planet. So this brings into the scene the concept of circular economy that focuses on converting wastes produced in an industry into inputs for another industry. That is basically the heart of Barbara and Larissa's project in Brazil. And to a certain extent, they are paving the way for circular economy that already exists in Brazil and needs to be consolidated. When Barbara was describing the process, she talked about the need to identify the waste and then to turn it into an input for another process, and that can something that can be sold to generate income for the schools. And that has to do with understanding that social transformation is not an event, it is a process. We transform society when we put together different events and we sustain processes. And what leads us to institutionality is the ability to sustain those processes over time. So, in conclusion, I would like now to try to frame these four rich experiences that had been described by the four panelists into the umbrella of service learning. And first, I need to draw some conclusions about the importance of service learning as components in these social processes, processes that build a civic culture. At least in Latin America, this kind of project reverses or deals with a serious fault within educational systems. Education systems teach us how to become doctors or or architects, but not citizens. So you can be a good professional and you can stop being that good professional, but you have to always be a good citizen. Education systems tend to use poor pedagogical approaches and poor content in order to educate students as citizens. The second service learning component that is essential here has to do with the fact that this goes beyond a pedagogical format. And let me highlight here the values of service learning. A cosmovision of collective organization at a point where the spaces and the tools that we have used as a society to organize ourselves collectively are now brought down or discredited. So now the education system can bring in this cosmovision of collective collaboration or collective organization. So now we are now using this debris of what has fallen down to build the foundations of what comes next. Secondly, here we have a framework of values in action. This is not theoretical. This offers us the opportunity to do concrete actions and to put into practice the values that we learn. One of the major problems that we find, in my personal opinion, in humankind is that there is a big gap between what we preach and what we actually do. So I think that putting into practice these values is another major contribution of this structure of service learning. And lastly, I should also mention that service learning is a lifestyle. When service learning is carried out beyond the school period, it becomes a lifestyle that leaves us winning or losing aside, that idea of success aside, in order to allow us to take care of the others, those that are familiar to us and those that are strangers to us. So I think that here we bring together all these components that contribute to the logic of service learning in a path that allows us to come up with the innovations required by the 21st century, values in action, lifestyle, and collective organization. I conclude with these remarks. I have nothing else to say. I know that Luz is going to make some final comments now. Thank you, Carlos, so much. This has been wonderful. I thank the 6 of you because this has been a beautiful, challenging, motivating, interesting morning session. So thank you so much. And we are full of energy now to continue with the other sessions of this conference. Now we are going to have a 15-minute break and we will continue in this same channel in Spanish, Portuguese, and English. Our next plenary session, please don't miss it because it's also going to be fantastic. It will display the award-winning experiences, and these projects will be described by the ones who carry them out. From different geographical regions, we will bring to you projects that have received awards at different levels. So we'll see again in 15 minutes from now. Thank you.